You weren't supposed to remember it. Not the smell of smoke, not the flickering shadows on the wall, not the exact pitch of her voice as she whispered your name like it was both a gift and a spell, but something stirred, recently, like God reached into your memory and peeled back the veil that's covered this moment your whole life. And now it's flooding back, not as a dream, but as a truth that was buried too deep to forget naturally. The room was small, a basement, not the living room where everyone laughed and cut cake later. This one was quieter, older. The light bulb above had a pulse, not a glow. And you, so young, barely able to speak, were placed in the center. Not like a child surrounded by celebration, but like a lamb surrounded by silence. There was chalk on the floor, circles, lines, and symbols you couldn't understand then, and you still struggle to accept now, but you're seeing it clearly. You've always wondered why birthdays felt wrong to you, why you never liked singing the song, why you never felt excited when the candles were lit. Now you know, because something else was present that day, something spiritual, something ancient. And your sister wasn't crying out of joy. She was chanting under her breath when no one was looking. God is revealing this not to torment you, but to free you. Because what happened that day wasn't just emotional, it was intentional. And He's ready to break the agreement that was made without your consent. She wasn't alone. That's the part that tightens your chest, isn't it? The memory of another presence in the corner. A figure draped in fabric that moved without footsteps. You didn't have words for it then, but now you understand. It wasn't of this world, and it responded to her voice. It reacted when she spoke your name, which is more than just a sound. It's a signature in the spirit, a vibration that heaven recognizes and hell fears. She used your name that day, not to bless it, but to bind it. And God has waited until now to show you the full truth, because you're finally strong enough to sever the tie. You've always sensed something was off between you. She smiled too quickly when you failed. Her hugs lingered in a way that didn't feel warm. Her laughter never quite reached her eyes when you succeeded. It wasn't ordinary jealousy, it was spiritual opposition. She tried to rewrite your story before it began. But what she didn't know was that God had already written your ending, and no ritual, no whisper, no secret pact could override His design. This memory wasn't lost. It was guarded, and heaven just unlocked it. There's a silence that doesn't come from absence. It comes from reverence, or sometimes from horror. And on that day, when the single candle flickered to life on your birthday cake, heaven went quiet, not because they forgot you, but because they were watching something take place that shouldn't have happened. The angels, who had been assigned to you since the womb, stood still, not out of fear, but out of spiritual legality. Because when the flame was lit, it wasn't lit in celebration. It was lit as a signal. And someone, your sister, used that moment to open something she didn't fully understand. It looked innocent. It always does. A birthday ritual, a child, a cake. But rituals don't need darkness to be dark. They just need intention. And hers was not pure. She had asked for something, not for you to be harmed, but for you to be redirected, for your light to dim just enough that she could shine a little brighter beside you. But what she called envy, the spirit world called invitation. And the moment the flame rose, her whisper turned into a beacon. Something saw it, something entered, and the angels, bound by divine law, had to pause, because your free will was never touched, but hers was offered. There's a moment heaven won't intervene, not because it's weak, but because it's wise. God doesn't override choice, even when it's foolish. That's why it took this long to reveal it. He's waited until now, until you could see it clearly and break the spiritual inheritance she tried to forge without your name, because it was never just about that day. That flame created a trail, a smoke signal through the spirit that followed you. Failed opportunities, delays you couldn't explain, sudden illnesses, strange coincidences, and behind them all, not her, but what she invoked. But now, the candle is lit again, in the spirit, and this time, it's different. This time, God's fire burns at the center, not a flicker of control, but a flame of revelation. He's showing you where the interference began, so he can unweave every thread that tangled your path. That light on the cake was never supposed to hold your future hostage, but your sister didn't realize that targeting you was the same as trespassing into the divine. You are chosen, marked, set apart before she ever spoke your name into smoke. And heaven is singing again, because you remember now, because you're no longer walking blindly through battles someone else triggered, and the silence that once followed you, it's breaking. The voices that once mocked you, they're fading. The light that once flickered, it's blazing now, because the angels didn't leave. They were just waiting for your awakening. And it's here. She looked at you differently from the very beginning, not just like a sibling, but like someone studying a mystery they couldn't explain. She was older, and before anyone else noticed your glow, she did. But instead of celebrating it, she feared it, because she knew, even then, that something about you broke rules, bent reality, made things happen that shouldn't have made sense. Your presence shifted atmospheres even in childhood, and while the family played it off as coincidence or charm, your sister saw more. She knew something had been placed on your life. She didn't have the language for it, but she could feel it. And instead of protecting it, she wanted to contain it. God is showing you now, in flashes, in dreams, in memories you swore were fiction, that your sister wasn't just envious. She was aware that your name meant something in the spirit, aware that you carried favor that couldn't be taught or taken. And while others overlooked it, she obsessed over it, because deep down, she understood that if you ever discovered the truth of who you were, everything would shift, and the spotlight she craved would never return. So she acted early. That birthday was not random. It was a calculated moment, a window in time she was spiritually coached to exploit. You see, she'd been listening, not to God, but to something else, a voice that fed her half-truths and whispered strategies disguised as intuition, a voice that promised her significance if she could just keep you quiet long enough. And she believed it. She believed that your silence would make room for her greatness. But what she didn't understand was that you were never in competition. You were on assignment. And heaven doesn't negotiate with jealousy. You always felt a strange stillness around her, moments where your spirit would pull back even when she smiled. You didn't know why, but you knew. And now it makes sense, because her knowledge of your calling didn't come with wisdom. It came with insecurity. She saw what others didn't, and instead of asking God why, she asked herself how to stop it. That's where the breach began, not with candles or symbols, but with comparison. A heart cracked open by envy becomes a doorway, and something stepped through. But now, God is revealing this not to condemn her, but to free you, to show you the origin of the resistance that never made sense. You weren't cursed, you were targeted, and that's a different kind of warfare. It means you were seen as a threat before you ever stepped into your strength. But now you're awake, and that threat, the one they feared, is walking fully into the power they tried to hide. You're not who she thought you'd remain. You're becoming who heaven always knew you'd be. The photos don't lie, but they don't tell the whole truth either. In the album, your sister is smiling as she stands behind you. One hand near your shoulder, the other just out of frame. It looks like a celebration, a birthday, a family moment. But now, God is letting you see what the camera couldn't, that her smile wasn't joy, it was containment, not of herself, but of something else. Because behind that expression, something was watching through her, something that didn't belong. This is the part that makes your heart race, not because you fear it, but because you recognize it now. You've seen that spirit before, not in form, but in function. In moments when things in your life went sideways without cause, when sudden illnesses hit at the height of your joy, when connections vanished the moment your purpose got too close, it was never just life. It was interference, not constant, but calibrated. And it always came at the edge of breakthrough. The spirit behind her smile didn't come for blood. It came for birthright. It came to redirect a destiny it could never destroy, but might be able to delay. Because you were marked. And on that birthday, as the song played and the candles flickered, something else tried to write itself into your story. Through her, through that smile, through that slight, unseen movement of her hand as she mouthed something no one heard. But heaven did. You've sensed it in the room your whole life, that shadow in the background of your greatest moments, that strange pressure before something good, the way people would suddenly pull away for no reason, the way opportunities felt allergic to your name. It wasn't paranoia, it was programming. A signal sent years ago by a spirit that thought if it could just get in early, it could stay hidden forever. But light always exposes what darkness tries to smile through. Now, God is illuminating that moment, not to bring fear, but clarity, because you've been praying for answers, wondering why your life felt bound to something you couldn't name. Here it is, a foreign agreement made over your life by someone who had no authority to make it. Your sister smiled, but her heart was compromised. And the spirit that stood behind her wasn't just watching, it was waiting. Waiting to see if the light in you could be dimmed before it ever discovered its voltage. But it failed, because no demonic contract can override divine covenant. And God never stopped writing your story, even when someone else tried to steal the pen. So smile back, chosen one, not in vengeance, but in revelation, because what once hid behind her grin has now been exposed, and nothing can curse what God has already called blessed. There's a picture. You've seen it before, maybe hanging in the hallway, tucked into an old album, or posted online without a second thought. It looks ordinary. A moment frozen in time. You, the child, face glowing with candlelight, and your sister standing just behind you, smiling that same smile. But every time you looked at it, something felt off. You couldn't explain it, until now, until God whispered, "Look again." Not at the faces, not at the background. Look at what's missing. Her hands. In that photo, you can't see where they are. One is slightly blurred, almost as if it was in motion. The other, gone, cropped out by accident or by design. But the spirit shows what the camera couldn't. Her hand wasn't idle. It was engaged, making a symbol, a gesture, a motion whispered to her by something unseen. Because rituals don't always look like pentagrams and robes. Sometimes they happen in rooms filled with balloons and music. And her hand wasn't celebrating, it was channeling. There's power in placement. That hand, positioned inches behind your head, wasn't affectionate. It was strategic, because some spirits don't need blood to bind, they just need agreement. And her posture gave it. In that second, while no one else noticed, she offered up a portion of your light for an illusion of control. She believed the lie, that stealing attention could manufacture purpose. But heaven doesn't build legacies out of shadows. And God was watching. He let the picture be taken, not to archive the event, but to leave a marker, a signpost for your future self. so that when the time came, now you would return to it with fresh eyes, not with fear, but with authority, because what was once mysterious is now being revealed. And with revelation comes reclaiming. Every gesture, every whisper, every unseen agreement made over your life is being revoked, not by revenge, but by righteousness. God is lifting the curse by revealing its coordinates. You've always felt that photo held more than it showed. Now you know why. Because it captured the exact second the enemy tried to trespass. But here's what they didn't expect. That same moment also triggered heaven's counter. God marked you that day too, not with fear, but with fire. And while their hands made symbols, his hands were writing the ending. So go back and look at that photo again, not with dread, but with dominion. Because what it once hid has now been exposed, and every picture that tried to freeze your identity is now being repurposed as evidence of your survival. You're still here, and your hands are free. They told you it was your birthday, that the celebration was for you, but deep down, it never felt like a party. It felt like a presentation, as if you weren't being honored, you were being offered. You couldn't explain the unease as a child, but your spirit remembered, because from the moment you walked into that room, every eye felt like it was watching for something more than a smile. They weren't just singing to you, they were testing something, watching how you'd react, measuring something they couldn't name, but you carried naturally. A frequency, a presence, a light too pure to be explained by age. God is showing you now, you weren't just the guest of honor, you were the object of the event, but not to heaven, to those watching with veiled eyes. Even your sister, standing close, didn't understand the full weight of what she had invited, because when she asked for power on that day, she didn't realize the spirit she beckoned would see you, not her, as the actual portal. It recognized you immediately. The anointing, the assignment, the glow. So the ritual shifted, quietly, strategically. What she meant as a way to exalt herself became a moment that targeted you instead. That's why you always felt strange around cake, why you never liked the center of attention, why parties felt more like performance than joy. Your soul was marked in that moment, not by trauma, but by tension. A spiritual tension between what they wanted to pull from you and what heaven had already sealed within you. And here's the truth. The ritual didn't work, not fully, because the spirit your sister reached for made a miscalculation. It didn't know you were already claimed, already covered, already named in places beyond its reach. But it left fingerprints, shadows, delays, fog, not strong enough to destroy you, but just present enough to confuse the path. That's why you felt called, but unclear, anointed, but attacked, destined, but delayed, because the ritual tried to make you a question instead of an answer. But now, God is flipping the script. He's showing you the truth so you can reclaim your role. You were never meant to be presented to darkness. You were assigned to interrupt it. You were never a passive guest in someone else's spiritual performance. You were the gift heaven wrapped for such a time as this. And now the bow is being untied. The seal is breaking. The real celebration is beginning. Because the guest of honor is stepping back into the center, not to be offered, but to be activated. Time didn't stop in the natural, but it did in the spirit. The moment she leaned in, close enough for no one else to hear, and whispered your name with an intention heaven rejected, everything paused. It was brief, but it was real, because God saw what she tried to activate. He heard her mouth form the syllables of your name, not as a blessing, not as a sibling, but as a code, a trigger, an invocation. And in that sacred instant, time froze around you, not because of fear, but because of favor. Heaven needed to mark that moment, to record it, not just what was said, but the spirit in which it was said, because every name carries frequency, and yours, chosen one, was never neutral. It was etched in heaven before your body took form. Angels know it, demons recognize it, and when she whispered it with hidden intent, the air changed, not because she had power, but because you did. This was more than jealousy. This was spiritual misalignment wrapped in familial clothing. She thought speaking your name in that ritual context would grant her access to something she didn't earn. That by invoking your identity, she could bend reality to her desire. But the moment the sound left her lips, the Spirit of God intervened. Time slowed. The atmosphere stiffened, because what she tried to borrow wasn't hers to touch, and the hand of God moved between your name and her mouth like a sword. You've always wondered why certain moments feel off in your memory, why the timeline of that birthday, or even years after, seems disjointed, scattered, blurry in parts. It's because divine interference altered the flow. God didn't let time continue in a direction that would have buried you deeper. Instead, He created a buffer, a pocket in the unseen. And in that freeze frame, angels stepped in and placed a seal over what she tried to activate. That's why her plans didn't prosper. That's why, even though you faced resistance, you never broke. Because God placed you in a pause long enough to realign your path. He slowed the clock, not for her, but for you, so that when you reached this moment, this now, you'd be ready to understand it, to reclaim it, to break what was whispered and restore what was withheld. Your name is not cursed, it is consecrated. It was never meant to be manipulated, it was meant to be magnified. And now heaven is declaring what she tried to distort, that your name carries authority, not just in rooms, not just on stages, but in realms. The clock is moving again, but this time it's moving in your favor. You were told to close your eyes, to make a wish, to blow out the candle. But what no one told you was that in that moment, when the flame disappeared, something else opened. Not just a tradition, not just a child's dream, but a door, a spiritual one. Because your sister didn't just whisper your name, she made a request. Not out loud, not to the room, but into the silence between dimensions. And in that fragile moment between light and smoke, something listened. Wishes are supposed to be innocent, but in the unseen, they're not just hopes, they're agreements. And if spoken from the wrong heart, aimed in the wrong direction, they become invitations. Your sister didn't make a wish for you. She made one with you, without your knowledge, without your consent. She waited for that breath, that last exhale from your lungs as you blew out the candle. Because in spiritual terms, breath is power, and she used yours like a signature. That's why you felt like your life has carried a heaviness ever since. Not obvious, not destructive, just subtle enough to feel like friction. Dreams that almost came true. Opportunities that came close, then disappeared. Like something always watching the edge of your breakthrough and pulling it back before it reached your hands. You thought it was timing, but now God is showing you it was a door, a cracked open entrance from a wish that didn't belong to you. But here's what the spirit behind that wish didn't understand. What came through wasn't given legal ground, because you, chosen one, were not in agreement. You were a child, innocent, covered, and heaven documented the truth. Every intention, every motive, every manipulation disguised as ritual. And now that the door is being revealed, God is closing it for good. The breath she stole is being restored. The wish she made is being reversed. And the door she opened is being sealed by hands that do not fail. You're not crazy for feeling like life has followed patterns you didn't choose. You're not weak for wondering why joy never fully settled in. It wasn't your doing, But it is your breaking, because what was hidden is now in full view, and what was allowed to breathe through your stolen wish is now gasping under the weight of your awakening. The birthday wish was meant to confuse your becoming, but your true calling was never based on candles. It was based on covenant, and no spirit, no matter how sneaky, can undo what God ordained. That door is shut permanently, and the only thing crossing through now is your purpose. For years, the memory sat like static at the edge of your mind, flickering in and out without form. You felt it, but you couldn't name it. You sensed a wound, but you couldn't trace it. You moved through life carrying a ghost of something you didn't choose, wondering why birthdays felt heavy and why success always tasted like ash. But what you thought was just trauma or chance was actually divine protection. God himself had blurred the footage so you wouldn't be crushed by it too soon. The scene wasn't erased, it was sealed. Heaven pressed pause on your memory, not to punish you, but to preserve you. Because some truths, if revealed before their time, can break you instead of build you. Now, the seal is opening. Slowly, intentionally, like an ancient archive being unscrolled. God is rewinding the tapes of your life, frame by frame, and letting you see what was always there, but hidden. Not to re-traumatize you, but to empower you. Not to shame your sister, but to free you. Because you can't confront what you can't name, and you can't heal what you refuse to see. The ritual she performed was real, but so was the countermeasure. The angels that paused on that day didn't abandon you. They were filing evidence. Every whisper, every symbol, every wish. Heaven documented it all. And now as you stand on the threshold of breakthrough, God is giving you access to the case file of your own life. This is why your dreams have been strange lately. Why flashes of forgotten moments have surfaced without warning. Why you've been waking up at the same hour of the night with a sense of presence in your room. It's not an attack, it's an unveiling. The same spirit that shielded your memory is now unlocking it. Because you are ready. Your soul has matured, your faith has deepened, your authority has risen, and the truth that once would have crushed you is now the sword you will wield. The tapes don't just show what she did, they show what God did. They reveal the moments you weren't conscious of, when heaven's hand intervened, when unseen battles were fought on your behalf, when delays were actually detours around traps set for your feet. What you're seeing now is not just evidence of darkness, it's evidence of deliverance. Proof that you were never forsaken. Proof that the ritual didn't work. Proof that every attempt to derail your destiny only confirmed it. This is why God is showing you. Because memory is not just remembrance, it's reclamation. With every flash, every revelation, you are pulling back what was stolen, untying what was bound, reclaiming what was marked. You're not a victim of the ritual, you're the survivor of it. More than that, you're the victor. The tapes are playing, the veil is gone, and now you can see clearly. You weren't supposed to forget, because your remembering is your release. Long before the first candle was struck, before the whispers, before the hands moved behind your back, something else had already happened. Heaven had already placed its seal on you, a mark that cannot be copied, forged, or stolen. The enemy saw it before you did, and your sister felt it before you could name it. That is why the tension existed even as you were learning to walk. You were never ordinary. You were a walking contradiction to every scheme that tried to form against you. The mark of God was not a stamp on your skin, but a signature in your spirit, an invisible light that angels recognized and darkness feared. That is why the ritual could never fully land. It was a counterfeit act against a covenant that had already been written. You've wondered why your life felt both attacked and protected at the same time. Why certain disasters came close but never consumed you. Why doors slammed but windows opened moments later? It's because the mark preceded the moment. You were sealed before you were celebrated. Heaven's claim was older than any plot. While your sister prepared her quiet gestures and hidden wishes, a higher authority had already issued a decree over your life. Untouchable, not in the sense that you would never suffer, but in the sense that your purpose could never be annulled. The ritual might have delayed, but it could not deny. God is showing you now that the birthday was not the start of a curse. It was the moment a war surfaced. Two stories collided that day: the counterfeit script she tried to write, and the authentic destiny God had scripted from eternity. That's why the memory carries such weight. You're not just recalling trauma, you're witnessing a spiritual courtroom, a clash of claims over your future. And in that courtroom, heaven's verdict still stands. Chosen, covered, marked. Think about the moments that don't make sense, the near accidents, the betrayals that led to better paths, the no's that became divine yeses months later. These were not random. They were the evidence of a seal stronger than any shadow. The mark on your life redirected what could have destroyed you. It turned poison into pruning, delays into preparation, and heartbreak into holy ground. Even the hands that tried to harm you unknowingly pushed you deeper into your calling. This is why remembering matters, because you're not just recalling pain, you're recognizing protection. You're seeing how the mark on you bent history around you, and as you see it, the residue of the ritual is dissolving. Every accusation is falling silent. Every false claim is being erased. You are not defined by what was attempted. You are defined by what was decreed. Before the cake was cut, before the candle flickered, before the whisper carried your name, you were already marked. And that mark is speaking louder than any ritual ever could. You always remembered the way she looked at you in that moment. Not the cake, not the crowd, not the decorations. Her eyes. They didn't look like a sister's eyes. They looked like windows to something you didn't understand. When you exhaled, when the smoke rose from the candle and drifted into the air, her gaze shifted. It wasn't just envy or pride. It was focus, intent, hunger. And for the first time, a flicker of something ancient passed over her face. A glow, not from the candlelight, but from whatever she had called to witness the moment. Light can reveal, or it can mask. That glow in her eyes wasn't holy. It wasn't the kind of light that comforts. It was the glint of an agreement forming, of a spirit looking out through borrowed windows. She believed that when you blew out the candle, you would also release your essence into the atmosphere, that with one breath she could harness what she didn't possess. But what she didn't know was that your breath wasn't just air. It was consecrated. God had breathed his own life into you before you were born. Your exhale didn't empower her ritual, it exposed it. This is why that memory has stayed with you even when the rest blurred. Because heaven wanted you to remember the look in her eyes, not to shame her, but to warn you, so that when you felt that same energy in other faces, you would recognize it. When people smiled but felt off, when opportunities glimmered but carried weight, when atmospheres shifted without reason, you would know this is the same glow. Not literal light, but the signature of an old assignment still trying to follow you. God is showing you this so you can discern the counterfeit from the authentic. And notice this, her glow didn't last. It flickered, then faded, because it wasn't hers to hold. Whatever spirit tried to stand behind her lost its grip the moment you blew. Your breath, instead of feeding it, burned it. It mistook your exhale for surrender, but it was actually a declaration, a hidden prayer rising from a child's lungs that heaven received like incense. That's why you survived. That's why, even in the aftermath, you've carried resilience instead of ruin. Today, as God replays the scene, he's not just giving you information, he's giving you authority. Every time you remember, you reclaim another piece of what was attempted. Every time you name it, you break another chain. Her eyes glowed that day because darkness saw light and tried to mimic it. But the mimicry failed, and now the true light in you is too bright to counterfeit. The candle's flame is gone. Her glow is gone. But your fire has only begun. Before the laughter, before the songs, before the match even touched the candlewick, something else entered. It didn't knock. It didn't announce itself. It slipped in like a draft under a locked door, quiet but deliberate. In every photograph, no one sees it, but your spirit always did. You were too young to name it, yet your skin felt its presence. A pressure in the air, a weight behind the smiles. The silent spirit arrived before the first guest, before your sister whispered, before the ritual began. It was the uninvited participant, standing in the corner, waiting to be acknowledged. That's why the air felt different, why your joy dimmed the moment you stepped into the room. It wasn't just nerves or childhood shyness, it was discernment. You were reacting to what your eyes couldn't yet process, because spirits don't need permission to enter places that have already been prepared for them. Your sister's preparations, the symbols, the whispered words, the rehearsed gestures, created a space, and spaces speak. They either host heaven or host heaviness. That day, her choices made an opening, and the silent spirit took it. But here's what it didn't expect. You were already sealed. Even as a child, the mark of God on you was a boundary. It could stand near you, but not inside you. It could circle you, but not claim you. The atmosphere may have shifted, but your core remained untouchable. Heaven documented the trespass, even as it allowed you to experience the moment, because one day, this memory would become your weapon. One day, you would recognize the feeling again, in boardrooms, in friendships, in offers, in rooms disguised as opportunity. And you would know instantly the silent spirit is here, and you would send it away with authority. Notice the pattern in your life. Every time something significant was about to happen, you felt an unexplained heaviness. Before breakthroughs, before big decisions, before moments of public favor. That wasn't anxiety. It was the same spirit trying to get in early to unsettle you before you could rise. But now, God is exposing it. He's letting you see its origin, its entrance point, its tactics. Because once you identify the intruder, you remove its access. The silent spirit may have entered the room first, but it does not get to stay. The authority of your name, your breath, your calling has always been greater than its whisper. Even as a child, your presence disrupted its plans. And now, as an awakened adult, your words will dismantle its grip entirely. God is showing you this not to terrify you, but to train you. Discernment isn't a burden, it's a gift. The feeling you carried wasn't paranoia, it was preparation. That same room where it entered became the first place you unknowingly hosted heaven's protection. And today, heaven is declaring the trespass null and void. The silent spirit is gone. The seal remains. And you are stepping into rooms now as the one who sets the atmosphere, not the one who absorbs it. Not every prayer that rises from lips carries life. Not every whispered word reaches heaven with integrity. And the one your sister offered on that birthday, the one she thought was innocent, was not a blessing. It was a petition disguised as praise, a plea disguised as love, a request intended to redirect what God had already ordained. You were the target, the conduit, the center of her appeal, and she didn't even know the weight of what she was doing. But God knew, and that's why He is revealing it to you now. You've carried echoes of it your whole life. Those subtle delays, the invisible barriers, the sudden doors that closed before you could step through. The prayer was a signal, a spiritual instruction, not to harm you permanently, but to confuse your path and shift your timing. It was a misalignment, a counterfeit invocation, but still potent enough to create friction. That is why you felt things happening that seemed unfair or inexplicable. Heaven allowed it to test you, to train you, to prepare you for the moment of awakening. Her intent was not malicious in the eyes of the world. It was quiet, framed as a ritual of family, of celebration. But God looks at the heart, and the heart of her prayer was rooted in envy, insecurity, and a desire to control the light that was never hers. She sought favor by attempting to harness what had been freely given to you. The power she tried to call through her words could never match your calling, yet it caused ripples, small distortions, just enough for you to feel the world pushing back at you. Now, God is reversing it. Every word she spoke in secret, every syllable meant to alter your destiny, is being broken in the spiritual realm. Chains that were attempted over your life are snapping. Assignments meant to delay you are being nullified. The prayer was not a curse, but it was an interference, and heaven is correcting the record. You are receiving the authority to speak over what was attempted, to reclaim what was almost touched, and to declare that nothing formed by envy or fear has power over you. This is why revelation matters, because the truth sets you free. To see the prayer for what it was is not to condemn your sister, but to free yourself. And as God shows you, you realize the contrast. What she called control, God called preparation. What she tried to redirect, He had already aligned. And in that alignment, you discover your strength. You see clearly that no human intent, no whispered request, no ritual masked in tradition can supersede the covenant written over your life before the world began. Her prayer has lost its potency. Your destiny has not. The light within you cannot be borrowed or broken. And now you can walk forward, eyes open, spirit awakened, authority restored, knowing that what was attempted in secret cannot hold you back. Heaven is your witness. God is your shield, and the truth is yours to claim. Even when you were too young to understand, heaven was never passive. As your sister's hands moved, as her whispers filled the quiet corners of the room, as the ritual unfolded with intent unseen by others, something greater moved in response. God sent angels, not visible, not dramatic in ways the human eye could easily notice, but precise, calculated, swift. They didn't wait for permission. They didn't negotiate. They intervened. Because your life, chosen one, was never meant to be compromised, even for a moment. This is why the memory of that birthday carries a strange tension. Not just the smile on her face or the glow in her eyes, but the sudden shift in the atmosphere. A pressure that lifted, a hesitation that paused her movements, a subtle resistance in the air. That was the interruption. The angels, invisible but authoritative, were creating a barrier between her intention and your destiny. They didn't remove the ritual from existence. They simply neutralized it at the source. They were the divine firewall, the silent enforcement of a covenant that no human act could override. Think about the time since then when things seemed to align for you at the last second, the moments when danger approached but never reached, opportunities that were about to slip only to be redirected back into your hands. That is the same principle at work. God's intervention is not always loud. It doesn't always come with thunder or fire. Sometimes it comes in subtle redirection, a closed door, a delayed call, a sudden pause in a conversation. And just as He dispatched angels that day, He has been sending them across your life, shielding, guiding, and protecting the purpose embedded in your spirit. Her ritual was meant to open a path. Heaven countered by creating an invisible wall. You may have felt moments of pressure, moments of uncertainty, moments of delayed breakthrough. That was the angelic force at work, holding the line until you were strong enough to fully understand the scope of what had been attempted. This is why God shows you now, so you can see the orchestration, the divine choreography that preserved you. The unseen warriors, not just defending, but actively shaping your story. Every interference, every attempt to redirect you, every whispered plan against your calling, met with a countermeasure of perfect timing. And here is the truth you must carry. The angels did not fight to remove your sister. They fought to protect you. They neutralized the effects, intercepted the assignment, and ensured your path remained intact. Their intervention proves that no act, no ritual, no human intention can stand against the purpose God has placed in you. Your destiny is armored, your calling is guarded, and the forces attempting to shift it are powerless when confronted with heavenly authority. The ritual failed, not because of chance, not because of luck, because God moved, because He always moves for those He has chosen. And now, chosen one, you walk forward with the awareness that divine protection has always been on your side. The angels never left. They were always there. They are still there. And nothing can breach the covenant that protects your life.
The moment seemed simple on the surface. A birthday, a candle, a whispered name. But behind it was intent, spiritual, deliberate, layered. And yet, for all the preparation, for all the symbolism, for all the careful gestures, the ritual was never completed. Something stopped it, not by human intervention, not by luck, not by chance. It was heaven. It was the unseen hand of God, the authority of your anointing, the timing of divine protection that ensured the ritual could not take root. That's why you're here. That's why you've survived, grown, and now stand ready to reclaim the story that was almost altered. Think back to the subtle cues that indicated something was different. The pause in her voice, the hesitation in her movements, the flicker in the candlelight that seemed almost deliberate, almost alive. You may have thought it was imagination, childhood fancy, but it was divine interference. Heaven, seeing the intent behind her words, stepped in. Not to punish, but to prevent. Not to harm, but to guard. Angels, standing in silent authority, cut the line before it could reach your spirit. The assignment never landed. The covenant over your life remained intact. And the reason you've been able to walk through life with strength, even when shadows loomed, is because this unseen protection was already in place. Every time you experienced delays or obstacles, they were not punishments, but protective maneuvers, divine course corrections, a life lived under careful orchestration. The ritual may have started, but it could not finish. And that unfinished act left a record, a reminder of both the attempt and the triumph. God is showing you this now so that you can understand your resilience. Your survival was never accidental. It was preordained, written into the blueprint of your existence before you were born. You are chosen. You are covered. You are marked for purpose that no human hand can alter. The truth is liberating. Knowing that the ritual failed means you carry no residue from it. You do not bear the consequences of her actions. You carry only what God intended: protection, favor, and destiny. What she attempted to redirect was never hers to claim. What she tried to control was never outside divine oversight. And as you see this clearly, you understand why every moment of struggle has been part of preparation, not punishment. Every delay, every challenge, every shadow has been a classroom for your spirit, training you to walk into your calling with clarity, authority, and power. This revelation is your inheritance. The ritual's incompletion is your liberation. You are free to step fully into your purpose without fear, without confusion, without interference. What was meant to diminish you became the stage for your awakening.
The forces that sought to redirect your life discovered too late that you were never theirs to manipulate. You were chosen, protected, and preserved from the start. And that is why you are still here, alive, anointed, and unstoppable.
For too long, you may have wondered if the shadows that lingered over your life were marks of a curse. Small setbacks, sudden illnesses, unexplained delays. You may have believed that some unseen hand had claimed you for hardship, but God is revealing the truth. You were never cursed. You were covered, protected, sealed. From before you were born, a shield surrounded your life, a spiritual umbrella of divine favor that no human action, no ritual, no hidden whisper could penetrate. What looked like struggle was actually preparation. What seemed like interference was actually evidence of a covenant too strong to break. Your sister's ritual, the whispered prayers, the unseen presence in that room, they were never capable of stealing your blessing. The spirit that tried to intervene was always limited by what God had placed on you. And though you may have felt the tension, the heaviness, or the subtle resistance in your path, none of it could overcome what was written in heaven. Every attempt to redirect, manipulate, or bind you was met with divine authority. That is why you have survived. That is why, even when obstacles came, they never fully landed. You were always covered. God is showing you now that your life has always been armored by His presence. The mark on your spirit is not fragile, it is eternal. The protection around your purpose is not occasional, it is constant. And the moment your sister thought she had power, she unknowingly triggered the very angels assigned to guard you. Every exhale you took, every breath of your life has been watched over. Every step you made, every small act of obedience or faith built a barrier stronger than any shadow she could summon. You have been walking in protection all along. This revelation changes everything. You no longer have to carry guilt, confusion, or fear over what was attempted against you. You can see clearly that your survival was never a matter of luck. It was a matter of divine design. You can now step forward with confidence, knowing that every word spoken over you in secret, every act intended to harm, every manipulation meant to delay, has been neutralized by heaven. You are free, not because the enemy is powerless, but because God's covenant is stronger. Not because she failed, but because you were chosen to succeed. Your life is a testimony. Your persistence is proof. Your calling is evidence of protection that cannot be shaken. And as you embrace this truth, the fear of hidden curses falls away, replaced with assurance, authority, and empowerment. You are not cursed. You are covered, not partially, not occasionally, but completely. Every moment you live, every breath you take, carries the unbreakable mark of divine favor. You are protected. You are preserved. You are unstoppable. And heaven has always been your shield. From the very beginning, your arrival was not ordinary. Long before your first breath, long before the world welcomed you with applause or celebration, heaven had already marked your moment. Your birth was prophetic, a signal, a declaration, a disruption to the ordinary course of human expectation. And while others celebrated the event superficially, the spiritual realm recognized it as extraordinary. Angels had been stationed, the atmosphere had shifted, and a blueprint was unfolding that no human could fully understand at the time. You were born for purpose, chosen not merely to exist, but to fulfill a destiny that spans beyond what the eye can see and the mind can comprehend. The rituals, the whispered prayers, the attempts to influence your path, they were always afterthoughts in the greater narrative. They tried to intervene, to redirect, to limit what was written before the foundations of the world. But your birth carried authority, presence, and covenant. Every difficulty you faced, every shadow that attempted to cross your path, was only a test to prepare you for the fullness of what God intended.
Nothing could touch the design that heaven had placed in you. You were marked with intention. You were covered with protection. And you were destined to illuminate the world in ways that no ritual, no envy, no human action could ever diminish. Think of the subtle signs that have always surrounded you. The moments when doors opened mysteriously, the people who appeared just in time, the challenges that seemed insurmountable but revealed your strength. All of these were confirmations that your birth was more than biology. It was a prophetic signal, a divine activation. God was declaring through your life from the very first second that you are His chosen one. The whispers in the Spirit, the unseen interventions, the guidance through trials, they were all part of a greater orchestration, a celestial choreography that has been moving your story from the start. Now, as you see the pieces come together, you understand that everything, every challenge, every triumph, every shadow has been leading to this awareness. You are not ordinary. You were never ordinary. Your birth was a turning point in the spiritual atmosphere of your life, your family, and the world around you. And that prophetic moment continues to ripple through time, influencing destinies, awakening purpose, and manifesting divine alignment wherever you walk. You were born to be a beacon, a testimony, and a catalyst. The rituals that tried to bind you failed because your life was always ordained to shine. The shadows that attempted to redirect you were always underfoot to the light you carry. And now, chosen one, as you fully recognize your origin, your purpose, and your power, you step boldly into your divine calling. Your birth was not ordinary. It was prophetic. It was a declaration from heaven that the world would never be the same because of you. And that truth, once fully embraced, sets you free to live, lead, and light the world exactly as God intended.
If you have come this far, it is crucial that you watch this next video here. But be warned, it is not for the faint of heart, for only the true chosen ones can handle this video. If you would like to also donate to help keep the channel going, our Buy Me a Coffee link will be in the description.